So our lesson today, we're talking about special needs trusts. And on the one hand, you could think, well, this is only applicable to people that have an adult child that lives with them or not, that um, that isn't a lot of the population. And so it's kind of like, why are we doing a video on this? Um, and we're doing the video on this because as we've gotten in and helped many people with this problem and this opportunity, and we've gotten into this, we just realize how widespread this is and how common it is when you go into extended families, uh, somebody in the family has got a child in their 20s and 30s and 40s that's in this situation, and they're being cared for by their parents that are in their 60s and 70s or 50s. And for the most part, this is a problem that's about the future because these kids are fine now, or they're adult kids. Uh, they're because their parents are taking care of them, and they're on supplemental security income, SSI. They've got Medicaid, and then for all the extra stuff to make their life fulfilling and enjoyable, the parents are just providing that, and everything's fine. And the biggest worry that's on these people's mind is what's going to happen to my child, who's now an adult, when I can't take care of him anymore, or when I'm deceased, or if they're a couple, we're both deceased, or we're in long-term care and we can't take care of ourselves, let alone take care of this child, who we're going to call a person with disability. And so why are we doing this video? I mean, I'm doing this video because I've just gotten a sense of these people, their whole life revolves around this, and many of them are genuinely worried about it, is what's going to happen when they live beyond me. And so I set out several months ago, along with Tom, we started studying this, and we went to several programs and read several books. And really through the learning of that, we learned that we are not doing this special needs planning on our own. I mean, we're the people that are going to find the experts, and then most importantly, we're going to vet the experts. And that's what we've done on some of these cases that we've assisted people, where we've gotten them in touch with the right people, and then we stay in the mix, and we're sitting over on the side of the table with the parents as their financial planner, asking questions to the people that are setting up the trust. So that's why we're doing it. And I want to bring Tom on now, and I want to start going over this material with you, with the idea that I'm not teaching you how to do this on your own. We're teaching you just enough to get you involved in the resources so that we can help these parents out that are concerned about their kids beyond their life.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point. This video is not intended to be the guide to go do this yourself. This is very complicated. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, and we're dealing with your son or daughter who has this disability. You don't want to mess this up because that's really going to impact their life. So we're gonna go through sort of the board. I'm going to bring up the show notes here just for a second. There's quite a long document in the show notes today where you're not going through the whole thing. I just want to show it to you guys. Just know that it's there. If you want to read more about this, you can go to our website. It's on our website. It's also the link below of this video. And this is just one of the resources that we used in our learning, but it does a pretty good job of sort of going through, giving you sort of the key points to know about. But it's even more detailed than this. And this is where those professionals, those attorneys who specialize in this, are going to be really helpful. So you'll see the board here. Again, it's about 70 something pages, so we're not going to go through this. I mean, we've pulled out the important parts for the board, but I just wanted to kind of show you that we have just quite a long document here to sort of back up a lot of the points on the board. So let's flip back over to the board here, and we'll just sort of start going down the left side of the board, and we'll just kind of go through this. And so the top of the board here, SNT is the abbreviation for Special Needs Trust. Kind of the first question is why. What is a special needs trust? Why do we need a special needs trust? And so this is different than other types of trusts out there. I mean, there's all sorts of different types of trusts. But this is specifically for a person or son or daughter, maybe a grandchild that has a disability, to protect their livelihood and their benefits after the guardians have passed away, because things change when mom and dad are still alive. And that's probably you who's watching the video. When you're still alive, you guys are able to take care of your child. You're able to pay for what needs to be paid for. They have SSI, potentially they're on Medicaid, and they have the benefits there. Things change after you both are gone, because now if they inherit money, that could they could lose all those benefits. And so what the special needs trust can do, if set up properly, is able to pay for some of these services that you're paying for now without them losing their benefits that are really needed for them. And so that's why you might want to set up a special needs trust, why it's important to do it properly. You want to use an attorney, again, that knows what they're doing, because a lot of attorneys might say, oh yeah, we've done that, but they don't know all of the intricacies. And you mess something up, I mean, you'll be dead at this point, and it really could really impact your child's life.
Well, one of the places, Tom, that happens is, I mean, let's just say you pass away and you inherit, just the money goes to your kid, and who has special needs, who's on these programs. They're going to get kicked off of Medicaid and kicked out of the SSI, and they're now going to have to buy health insurance, and they're going to have to pay for their living expenses out of the money you left them. And many times that's very difficult. And then I have some people who are very well-to-do who are kind of looking at all this, and it's really more that I've read about these people. So they're the people that I've come in touch with, but there are programs that these 20 and 30-year-olds now who have parents that are 60-year-olds old or 50-year-old, they're on SSI, they're on Medicaid, they live in a big house, they ride around in nice cars that their parents have, and they live a pretty good life because of the parents. And then, but they're on Medicaid and they got supplemental security income because their parents have all that money kept separate. And if they're all of a sudden, they inherit money, then they lose their SSI and they lose their Medicaid. So, you know, some people's answer to that is they just disinherit their child that has a disability. They just disinherit and they give the money to the siblings, and then they expect the siblings to provide what the special needs trust does. There's all kinds of problems with doing that. We could get into that in another video. So then the other solution is disinherit the siblings and leave all the money to the kid. Kind of makes sense on the surface because he needs it, she needs it. But then there's all kinds of problems with that as well. And so the special needs trust is, if you've got a child, an adult child in this situation that's going to have needs beyond your lifetime or beyond your capacity when you have long-term care, this is something you really need to look into. And once you start doing it, you need to get somebody that knows what they're doing. And so what we've done, Tom and I, is we've studied this enough, and we knew something going into the studying, but we know a lot now. We certainly don't know enough to do this stuff, but we know enough to vet the professionals and find the professionals for you. And there's people in every state in the country that there's an attorney that's an expert in this. And then the attorney, there's accountants and CPAs that you're really going to need to get on the team now that knows how to do a tax return for the beneficiary of a special needs trust and for the special needs trust itself. Okay? Now, when we got into the inheriting, we don't want to take care of this problem with the inheritance. We really want to direct the inheritance to the special needs trust. Talk about a life care plan is when we do this type of planning and we set up the trust, it's probably going to be wise to get a life care professional and put together a plan for the rest of their life of how they're going to be cared for and what's going to pay for what and who's going to pay for it and where the money's going to come from. They're not actually giving the care, but they're putting together the care plan.
And that's really important too, because if you think about it, most situations, the mom or the dad are the ones that are really serving in that role, as they are sort of coordinating things. They know what needs to be paid for, where our son or daughter needs to go, what events they have, what groups they're part of. Having a planned care in place, the siblings, and that's generally who's sort of helping manage these things. They're generally the trustee, not always, but the siblings might know a little bit of that, but having a document written down, really laying this out for their benefit. This is really for the whoever's going to be coordinating that care. It's for their benefit. It's really helpful to have in place, before it's needed, really.
So what's the trust for? What's the money in the trust for? And the money is there to enhance the life of your son or daughter. Okay. And it's to pay for all the stuff that you do for them, that you pay for out of your money. It's not to replace the stuff that SSI is paying for and health insurance and the Medicaid. It's for just literally everything else. And it's very important that the money comes out of the trust and it goes directly to the providers of the services. It doesn't go to the special needs person and then they distribute it, which many of them wouldn't have the capacity to do that. Some of them would. But an example of some of these things: cable TV, internet, housekeeper, attorney, accountant, investment advisor, care manager, caregiver, hairstylist, medical equipment, going to doctors that aren't covered by Medicaid to get specialized services or care or things in research. You can supplement Medicaid right out of this, no problem. Hobby supplies, vacations, tickets to events, pets and pet care, clubs, club dues, club membership, car, transportation, all of that stuff is eligible. It's important. It's not for shelter and food, because if you provide for that, and these attorneys, they know how to write all this stuff and they'll train the trustee, that you got to be careful that you don't make it for things that will make the trust and put their benefits in jeopardy. But that whole area, those are just examples. The list is a lot lighter than that, but that really enhances the life of this child when they live beyond you or live beyond your capacity. So we want to talk about the professionals. We already mentioned that, is you just need people that know this special needs stuff, and you need somebody in your state and or that's licensed in your state. I mean, we have one set of professionals that's in like 22 states that they're very familiar with this. So some of the states we have covered that we can do by Zoom, just like we work with a lot of our clients. But in the other ones, we just find somebody who's local, and we have a way to do that. So we can help you just about anywhere in the U.S. Specifically, you need an accountant or a CPA that is familiar with special needs trusts and the accounting for them. The investment, tax, and life insurance professional, that's us. And life insurance is an excellent way to fund a special needs trust because it's not encumbered by tax. So, we can set up a policy of a size that you want. We can even put it on a husband and wife where we can do a survivorship policy. So it's less expensive and doesn't pay off till the second death. And it just goes directly. The beneficiary is this special needs trust. We can break it up and put it into other trusts. I mean, life insurance is an excellent product. It also works very well if somebody says, I don't have that kind of money to fund for my child, and you don't know how long you're going to live, but you maybe can afford the monthly payment or the annual payment for a life insurance policy just over time and build it into your budget. And then you just know that this is funded and taken care of no matter when you pass away. So all of this needs to get set up now. What happens later, and we need to plan for, is who's going to be the trustee. And the trustee is going to be the gatekeeper of the money and manage the team. the legal guardian is really going to be the quarterback of the care team. I mean, the legal guardian doesn't mean they need to move in with them, although that might be nice if they're up for doing that. They're the quarterback of the care team. So, I mean, we've just thrown a lot of information at you today, really to just give you an idea of the picture of what's going on. But the whole thing is to pay for this, to pay for these types of things for your child, and to do that without putting their government benefits in jeopardy, because you need those, they need those for the rest of their life. And we wanted to finish on one final point here, that it's very important that you have a tax planner, an investment planner working with the special needs trust, because the special needs trust is an irrevocable trust. So it's going to be taxed on any income it recognizes at trust tax rates. And you can just look at those as very quickly do you get to the highest tax bracket. Is when the trust has over 14,000 of income, you're at the 37% tax bracket, which is high. And so we can help plan out when the trust gets money and then how it makes its money on the money that's in there, and somewhat control the taxes. And it brings up the point that it's difficult to, if most of your money is in an IRA and then you pass away and it goes to the beneficiaries of special needs trust, we got a real problem with taxing that money, or even holding it within a special needs trust. So we'll leave that for another video. Now I want to bring Tom back on, and I want to just talk about where this fits in our whole scheme of financial planning and all the 7 worries. I mean, I want to talk about IRA and 401k. That's relevant here. We talked a little bit about long-term care, and long-term care is for you is if we've got one older person taking care of a younger person that has special needs, and everything's going along fine, and now the caretaker needs long-term care themselves or home health care. Now we got 2 people that need to be taken care of. We got a problem. So this is something in the financial planning that we need to take care of for you. The IRA 401k money, if it comes all at once into a special needs trust, is problematic. So we need to talk about that. For the special needs child on Medicaid, or adult child, now they have these dual eligible Medicare Advantage plans. So there's actually where they can get some enhanced benefits besides just regular old Medicaid. They can get some Medicare benefits. We talked about income, because that's what the whole idea of the special needs trust is to do. And then we talked about taxes and estate planning.
I would check Social Security too, because SSI is a subset of the Social Security Administration.
It is. Thank you, Tom. So I'm Hans Scheil.
And I'm Tom Griffith.
And we thank you guys for listening.
Thank you.